This is the snowman too. See, this is the Earth's value, the nature of the Trinity and Earth's value. But we have to understand the unchanging nature of positive beyond that. So this is snowman 1. See, and this is where physics and metaphysics are juxtaposed. There are proofs that each of the sciences has multi-front positions with linguistic treatments and scientific dictates, sabotaging legal treatments of facts in their relationship to what everyone missed in every nation. So Allah's name is used to show how value A, all values are space nature. We all share this in demonstration of itself as the one nature, unchanging positive, one polarity, being cause and being the identity as two polarities of the nature of itself, as a semi-nature of itself, which is only longing in temporary value nature, where there is negative value nature juxtaposed with unchanging positive. So there's three natures of value. There's unchanging value. There's only one unchanging space nature positive, a nature of positive, and it's of progressive value. And there are two natures of space. We know this. There's forever nature and there's temporary nature. Now, the extent of forever nature is being obfuscated from us by hurt conviction natures, by delusions, and by interests in relationship to natures of organized crime that our nations missed. You know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police officer or any form. Like, I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in English. That's it. I'm not a doctor. But they've demonstrably failed our streets too long. Internation wise, they failed every leadership of modern nations, which was forced geopolitical campuses in relationship to industries that has nothing to do with money. This is an evidence fabrication nature maintenance through the sciences. So value A is science has to label this unchanging positive space nature that we know exists. Real science knows that there's a positive value. There's a nature of positive that is unchanging. Space nature positive. In demonstration to us actively. And that's value A. Unchanging overall. So that's the top of the snowman. This is how consciousness is a radical, not overall, with bodies of value. With value I is how it is unchanging space nature value, even when it is within as the identity, temporary physical identities of value, like bodies, and progressively so. So there's one nature that is of Allah's name was used to teach this. The religions are multi-front together, trying to correct internation natures of organized crime with human education, tactically re-engineered human education to have only let nations trained to self-defense of her conviction natures, blaming the mad nature of humanity, forced only realize this as human education, and as with what stays in conjunction with it, for example, tied to all these school shootings and stuff like that. This is in relationship to natures of organized crime that actual lawyers and that actual legal natures have failed to understand and have played roles with the hurt conviction natures it makes. It maintains made too, and you know that's with our jails, failed schools. But worse than failed schools, it's not to blame on the schools. It's top down. But then you can't blame leaders too. We have to blame everybody of our fax treatments. In other words, because every nation was forced to original terror negotiations with forced original shared policing that had these terror laws to force these divisions, to force that we don't remember ancient revelations, that we are a species as one unchanging positive plus. We are individuals, the nature also of unchanging positive space nature identity as unchanging positive plus. In the middle, we are bodies of value in demonstration to correlate unchanging positive. If we don't, and when we don't, what forced evolution, what forced nature that we know evolved. It didn't come from nowhere. That's they forced this term to fit with theories and delusions instead of staying on what we know. We know that nature evolved, where to come from. So that's the most logical thing. So you have to understand evolution. And to understand evolution, you have to have a label for the only unchanging space nature positive that we share. But it's a progressive value. That value is gaining through temporary space nature. So that value overall is gaining, and it will only gain for itself. All temporary space nature is positive to it. So what is not to its progression. So what is not positive to its progression is pushed away from its progression. Leith of Hadith, forced space nature transfer in relationship to the unchanging positive between and as and with the value of polarities. So that now in temporary value nature, in temporary space nature, the identity of unchanging positive space nature, what it holds as unchanged, the nature of unchanging positive, it longs that to it. Its nature in temporary space nature, where it is not that complete unchanging positive nature, it longs where it could be to be. And that's why Earth is an immediate space value with unchanging value overall. From one spot, forcing the demonstration of itself as a nature to the value of identities. And see, that's what stayed evolution, because there was no criminal persuasions. Criminal persuasions forced top-down positives to nations and to identities of species and to the identities of individuals that are lies. In other words, so now we're not science is not letting the only unchanging positive actively demonstrate to us, which then the sciences are like cells and organs to one body, enact. Everything is either positive or negative to it, which is what they're doing now, but in the furtherance of top-down lies. We're not working, so, and that's in measured ways, and that's being exploited by our nations in between and through them, with juxtapositions of our legal natures with internation criminal enterprise since before our founding, not by accident, with the presidents too. Everyone's ours. So they have medicine mixed with this too, in ways that no one realizes too, because they have the courts mixed with this, and they have the nature of them with the laws, where they don't speak about medical information, and where they have systemic evidence fabrications with that, and with their associations with all kinds of other inter-community positions and natures of jobs and employment. See, everyone's getting invested not by accident. as evidence fabrication natures, as her conviction natures trying to compete with people with reason, and that top down is forcing fights, or it's going to slander people, and that's multi-front being used. We have a systemic evidence fabrication problem with each of our nations, and then they have bombs and stuff like that. It's no good. So we have to understand what the radical of consciousness is. Radical value A, because it's invisible. It's inherent to zero. As value in one, juxtaposed now with physics and progressively. So now as value two as well. And so one is value in in temporary value nature. And then overall, we show how correlation is to the observation of the one unchanging space nature positive. And what we want to do is fall within the range of what is positive to that, as our acts and as our nature too, not just overall, as our nature trying to be it for every way. It's for the species. That's why I give to the nations with nuclear weapons, to their courts. What they should do is use art and make a force for the sea, claim the sea, right? Artistic right to make money into an account that no one touches, and then make everyone's going to talk about it in their nation. So make a nation. Each nation is going to talk about how they make another count, where they just make. They're just going to gather money just to stay, just to gather the means to realize, to envision what we can do real fast without messing up. In other words, we don't let physics lead human infrastructure out of what is tactically involved with linguistic tricks attached to even the physics of our infrastructure. We have to first understand value A overall is unchanging, the nature of positive. And then in juxtaposition with physics is unchanging. And in juxtaposition with active physics, with the nature of humanity, we have to correlate as a bodies of value. Now, that's three ways in physics. But then there's always the nature of unchanging positive is always greater than us, even when we are it within its nature, which is only always. Otherwise, we're outside of its nature. With negative value nature, we're pushed away from here. Negative value nature progressions are demonstrated. See, that's top down when they say war on poverty, because only let schools. That's great. But then we have to understand the revolution on poverty. We don't even understand American Revolution because we have our founders forced political theater, forced glorified in the facts of it as bait. These sciences are obfuscating themselves and forcing that glorified. So we're going to name the colon the victory with a Y, which is a question, which is scientifically why we also name it the Victoria, which is value inherent to value A. And this is demonstrably how the ancients taught this with pantheism, not as a many gods, but in demonstration of the one, as an active correlation of the one unchanging identity of space positive in demonstration to us. Allah's name is used to explain this. Understand that value A, unchanging value A, because we're talking correlation is to what is invisible but discernible. So this is invisible to one nature in zero, as the cause to positive value one, because positive value overall Allah, when zero when consciousness is a nature that is the nature of unchanging positive, that is the identity of it always, then the complete nature connects to it and it causes value 1. Now this is the quality of diffusion. Now to show positive quality of diffusion, the height of the letters were used for this. So the uppercase letters are what the identity of unchanging space nature's positive identity looks like in temporary value nature, because it's a progression. And the numbers are with this too. The numbers and the letters are juxtaposed, and to show about polarity nature, correlation nature is the same thing. Everything is correlation nature in demonstration of the one shared positive space nature identity. So that's value out in temporary space nature. That's all that's positive is only is that being that nature, it only belongs to its positive nature. So that's the definite article of Arabic, value al, which is value A. Where it's a radical, it's alpha. But where alpha is positive, it's value A. We're going to learn this because as temporary value natures, we're only alpha as a lowercase value A. If we have, and that identity is only in a bit visible inherent to it or not. If in the female, omega is the same value. It's a male and female is a pseudo alpha as polarity nature, when not the identity of unchanging positive, which is value A overall, which is invisible. So the female is AN. These A value lowercase a, or you used at the beginning of the sentence different. We'll examine this for reasons more than have been taught. So the male is lowercase value a, and the female is lowercase value n. We're both alpha neutral to unchanging positive, but we're also part of other value nature systems as that from other directions to get together. We're as a body as this. And what happens is when we're together, when we're a species on the same page, it forces positive value nature progressions, because now we're in that nature, and now the nature greater than that is going to force evolution. Okay, so that's real victory. So real victory is Victoria, and victory is with a Y, because it's part of negative value nature progressions. Because we don't understand, we have pseudo positive being forced, and that's negative value nature. We have physical delusions being forced. We don't have free speech, which is in complex ways and multi-front sabotage, and is being exploited multi-front complex ways sabotaged. We have pseudotypes and facts treatments, and it's killing people in jail every day. Now see, so left to right, the same nature as it is right to left. When there's questions, right to left, because we're a correlation nature. So we're a trinity as a nature that's inside of us, that was a nature unchanging and stays a nature unchanging actively, right to left, even though it's coming left to right. It's coming peripherally too. So vertically and horizontally, we are correlation nature, and English is revealed to teach this. The lowercase value natures, the temporary value nature. But we're going to understand that value A overall is inherent to all of them, as valued with choices and with education and positions, top-down positions or not. This is all that's in conjunction to this two not seen and not being let for the sophistication. We have her conviction natures to all areas. This is not normal human nature either. This is with per criminal persuasions that were legalized. Legalized criminal persuasions. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police or anything like that. I'm not a criminal. So we're going to learn the Trinity. But we're not going to learn it without Allah. Because this is a scientific term. And we're going to learn English. We're going to learn this with English. We're going to learn interscience obfuscations of themselves. And linguistic, in other words, with the law. For example, we're going to talk about a predicate act. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, I'm not anything like that. But common sense, since this nation's founding, we needed people to be able to defend free speech of natures and of qualities not let low terror branches, and how. And how they don't even understand it themselves. Even kings and queens don't understand the words to explain it themselves. Even Native Americans, they say the white man. That's how complicated, that's what they want. That's what they made those laws for. Colonization made those laws because they wanted the Native Americans to say the white man. Because then, now they forced three sides. And then they forced the tribes themselves to all kinds of divisions. And then they forced them joined with all kinds of intercultural psychologies, all forced through human education, tactically engineered to further hurt conviction natures and fake sides and fake guises with the term of prejudice being used, pretended as a false positive, pretended to care, but only obfuscating and holding obfuscated multi-front the real facts treatments and the real impositions are not let understood and even attacked like this. So this is these are people embracing the term and saying we're going after prejudice. They're obfuscating the free speech needed to be able to communicate the impositions left on our revolutionary, our staid lost souls with human value nature systems. There is one side as species, there's three positive is unchanging positive is a demonstration to us. And we know when we have the sciences free, we know that when we are this, we cause value R, which is value AH, lowercase AH, which is value N, which is the value, the female value, and the male value together. In other words, there's only one space nature positive in demonstration to us always. And we're indebted to it so much because it only demonstrates through positive or negative value nature progressions. So we have value nature systems of nations that force negative value nature progressions, for how they were only realized to see the world, even though there's landscape theater even Native Americans can't describe. Inherent to the flooded forest of the Sioux right now, of the Sioux Indians right now. There's movements to help them, but no one has the words to describe what's inherent to the flooded forest, which is longing to be active. Per nature, science is obfuscating with that too. It has all invested to in the nature of how originally forced and shared into market positions in international policing and that's who Saddam Hussein met with before the Gulf War, was with the people involved with the big food companies and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying we attack sides and stuff like that. I'm saying we understand our nations are broke, and then we make positive out of negatives. In other words, the nations with the nuclear weapons are obligated. They did science. They pretended that we had business not negotiating with terrorism while they were forcing the terrorism's nature of it by holding top-down bombs. And by leaving it obfuscated and terrorized anyone trying to speak through nation-forced identities. These nations are forcing pseudo-identities, because they're fighting about bombs, but they have physical delusions held with that. You know what I'm saying? We don't have free speech left. We have it forced to fight with self-defeating logic, and not by accident. So we have to understand value A is we're going to understand three natures of the word, the phrase, and the clause. So we're not going because the English is being obfuscated too, eh, to, because English was revealed to teach all these sciences. How a predicate act, a predicate is a space value with English. A predicate act is a relationship to a negative value nature is a negative value nature progression. It's an identity of consciousness. It's a nature caused by an identity of consciousness to the maintenance of a negative value nature progression in the context of internation organized crime juxtapositions with our original founding and with natures of our organized crime that not having the words for. It's blamed on the white man and just simple money and you know it's divide and conquer with our top down roles with it and with insidious roles with it tied to our courts still per the nature of how they're only let train realize to hide information in relationship to medical information, rely on other people's information. We have the original terror database things to methods, to terror human database methods. They use psychology, they use the sick methods, legal natures, forced like through the law. That's why they had laws against color and against witch trials and against people meeting to discuss infrastructure, trying to build better, trying to build safer. No, everything it has to stay measured in relationship to a narrative with policing narratives that are held colonized and held hurt conviction nature, evidence fabrication nature is measured to all areas. What they don't even realize. They and everyone blames it on things like money and indifference. Oh, that's the way the things are because that's all we were let to realize life. Because this is the nature of organized crime with education, and it's been with this, and it was to stay with this. So these words are getting messed up. We need these words for science, evolution. Unchanging space nature positive causes evolution. And when we are not that, it causes negative value nature progressions. Human nature doesn't cause this because of mental conditions, though that's with offensive natures of organized crime as well, juxtaposed with our courts and with our prisons and internationally shared under guise of being peace in relationship to these wars that they're forcing not even be addressed. What really is the problem behind the nuclear threats and all kinds of threats at once. You know what I'm saying? So what we should do is break through all these terms too. Admit we're broke. We need injunctive relief. I'm not a lawyer. I heard that exists. In other words, force a company to be there and be able to have communicate for itself. And then every nation's going to talk about how we're going to overcome the complex litigation, false pseudo identities forced with these fake nations, with these bombs, and with these sciences beyond their control. In other words, each nation was forced to educational inter-science roles as criminal insidiousness natures without realizing, just following the rules, trying to be peace with as taught, trying to be good, but as only let realize train. So then we're stuck this way. So we have to understand, for example, not just with the predicate act and with the real cause of criminal enterprises, in a more proper way of understanding it, needing to understand the obfuscations and motivations for the obfuscations of metaphysics and of the law. But we have to understand, I forgot what we were talking. So that's it's good for now.